Hey everyone, so I just finished chapter 3 and I'm in bed for the night, but I wanted to share my thoughts. So chapter 3, mindset, your perception is your reality. And this is the last chapter in the first part of the book, which, as a reminder, is called Behind the Scenes in Your Brain. I have a few thoughts about this chapter. I've also started thinking about this video series as essentially a book club. I know that I can't hear what the rest of you are thinking, but I think that's how I want to approach these videos, is kind of like I'm sharing my thoughts and hoping that, like, in the comments and stuff, we can continue the conversation. Okay, perception is your reality. She essentially asks in this chapter for you to suspend your disbelief, to set your skepticism to the side, and to really trust her and her many years of experience, the stories from the book of other people having had success. And she didn't say this explicitly, but for me, one thing I have come back to today is the scientific studies that are backing up her work at this point. I find that really fascinating and helpful. When my mind wanders to, like, is this all just a bunch of baloney? Am I wasting my time here? And for me, I am with her in this chapter. She says, if you don't believe it yourself, just borrow my belief for a while. And I think I'm happy to do that. So moving forward, I am gonna move forward with faith in the process, just kind of see what happens next. I know I might be disappointed at the end, but again, I'm gonna kind of suspend my disbelief and just try to throw myself wholeheartedly into the process. I do think I'm excited about it all. I just got this book yesterday. I read the first chapter last night and the second chapter this morning, and I filmed my first video around lunchtime, and now it's bedtime. The kids are asleep, and my husband went to the movies. So I think that right there is an indication of my kind of excitement and hope for this process. If I wasn't excited about it, then, I would have put off reading this book. I would have put off coming back to the next chapter. So I really want to continue following my heart and my energy. To me, this is kind of a project. I have been down a lot of paths with my headaches and my neck and back pain, and this is kind of a new opportunity to try something different. And so, much like I've trusted other processes in the past, I just want to go into this with the best of intentions, I guess. This is kind of unrelated, but I want to mention it while it's on my mind. I was on YouTube earlier and I just happened to type in the title of the book. I was just curious if there were a lot of other people talking about this, and kind of surprised that there's not really that much on YouTube. I didn't do a full Google search. I was only on YouTube, but one thing I watched, full disclosure, I have not read ahead in this book at all. I don't really know that much about Nicole or her work or anything besides what I've read in the first 3 chapters of this book. My physical therapist recommended this book, but she didn't say that much about it. She just thought, based on all of our previous conversations and my pain, that I might be a good candidate to read it. And she wasn't even actually finished reading it. I didn't realize until I ordered it that this book just launched last month. So it's very new, but Nicole's podcast, I believe, has been around quite a while, from what I've kind of read between the lines. So sorry, back to YouTube. I stumbled across Nicole on the Today Show promoting her book launch. So not that old, probably in the last few months. You know, the Today Show is a huge platform. She had I think the video is 4 or 5 minutes long. She had a very, very short amount of time to describe mind-body science and her journal speak approach, which I still don't know really anything about because I haven't gotten to that part of the book. I just know that it's coming based on the stories in the chapters and her introduction. I was really, really struck by how difficult this concept is to describe. If I had stumbled across this even a few months ago, I do not think I would have been ready to go down this path. And if the wrong person had potentially brought this book up to me, I don't think I would have been ready to go down this path. But because I trust my PT, I've been seeing her for quite a while. And she also brought it up in a very just non-confrontational way. I don't know, this might be for you. And then she sent me a link with the book title or whatever in an email. So it kind of just gave me the space to go on Amazon and read the full description of the book. And even then I was like, oh, I don't know. But the more I read of Nicole's writing, I'm like, okay, I feel like I may have completely drank the Kool-Aid already. But then I watched this Today Show interview and I was like, I can see how someone would be so turned off by the whole concept. And it's not anything that Nicole did wrong. I just think it's incredibly difficult to describe in a few short minutes how chronic pain can be linked to our body's fight or flight response, that our brain is telling our body that we're in danger when we aren't. But I think there's something unique about my generation of young moms where the expectations are very, very high and the community resources are relatively low. Just as a generation of young parents, I think that there are a lot of stressors that maybe weren't there for our parents. I don't think that Nicole is probably even gonna bring this up, but for me, as I'm reflecting and connecting to my own life, of course it's something that is a front of mind because a lot of my more recent chronic pain issues started with my boys being born. And so it makes me kind of curious if this is happening with other young moms or young parents. When you're in the thick of having toddlers, you don't really have time to even think of them as stressors. It's just life. Our lives are somewhat stressful because we have small kids running around the house. And we signed up for it, we're not upset about it. But at the same time, when you don't confront those stressors, maybe other things pop up in our body as warning signs. And so, I don't know, I'll be curious if other people have kind of that same thought process or if it's something that some of the stories from this book are going to touch on. So the last thing I wanted to mention was the story at the end of chapter 3. So her story was interesting to me. I think all of the stories are gonna be interesting to me, but hers was interesting to me because yet again, I feel like my pain and my symptoms are not even close to comparing to hers. But she talks about a few things that kind of resonated with me around perfectionism and excelling professionally. One thing I've noticed since I've been home with my boys is that I really struggle with not feeling productive or not feeling like I've contributed enough on a given day. My husband will always say you were with the kids, that is your contribution. And I have really struggled with that. And I think not working at the moment has been very difficult for me because I don't see those like professional gains or like professionally I was a teacher, so like every single day was busy. I got done and I was like, man, I did things today. And I still feel like that as a mom, but I don't know where the disconnect is, but it's something that I've talked a lot about over the last, it's almost been 4 years since my son was born. And it took me a few months really to catch up with myself and figure out what was stressing me out a bit, but I think it was just this lack of productivity, and I've done many things over the last kind of 3.5 years to try to feel that productivity, and I've kind of gone down a rabbit hole there, but I am very curious to see if there are any stories further down in the book that are going to resonate with me even more. And even just stories of people who maybe didn't have like such extreme versions of chronic pain. Like for me, I struggle with headaches, maybe migraines sometimes, and some neck and shoulder pain. And some nights it is pretty bad. I certainly think it's worth trying to eliminate from my life because it affects how I spend time with my family. I'm not trying to like diminish my pain compared to other people. I am cognizant, I guess, of the fact that some of their stories are a bit more extreme. And I think all of us are completely, worthy of dealing with our symptoms. I don't compare for the sake of just comparing, but just to say like, wow, like there are people living with even more pain, even more debilitating symptoms. And, they've seen success with this process of this mind-body work that Nicole outlined. So I'm really curious moving forward what's going to happen next. I'm trying not to look too far ahead because I do feel like I want to share this experience with you guys, because chapter 4 gets into the actual work. So here's part 2. The work that transforms, prepare, laying the groundwork for optimal success. And then chapter 4 is specifically some questions to consider.